Myths, legends, stories whispered around campfires for 1,000 years. We think we know them. The noble king, the wise wizard, the terrifying monster. But what if these tales aren't just fiction? What if, behind the veil of fantasy, lie real people? Real events, and a truth far stranger than any story? For centuries, we believed they were only make-believe. But now, archaeology and history are peeling back the layers, revealing the flesh and blood figures who inspired our greatest legends. The name King Arthur evokes images of a shining knight, the round table, and the sword in the stone. A myth, or is it? In the 5th and 6th centuries, as the Roman Empire crumbled and Britain descended into chaos, a different kind of leader emerged. Not a king in a shining castle, but a Romano-British commander, a warlord. Historical records speak of figures like Ambrosius Aurelianus, a man of Roman descent who rallied the Britons against invading Saxon tribes. The legend of Arthur isn't the story of one man, it's the echo of many. A composite of desperate commanders fighting to hold back the dark. Their battles became the foundation for Camelot. Their courage, the seed of a legend that would never die. Every Arthur needs his Merlin, a figure of immense power who could command the very elements. We imagine a bearded sorcerer, advisor to kings. The truth begins with a man named Merlin Wilt, a 6th century Welsh poet and prophet. He was no sorcerer. He was a real man, a bard who witnessed the horror of the Battle of Arthreed. The bloodshed drove him to madness. He fled civilization, retreating into the Caledonian forest to live as a wild man. They said he spoke with animals, that he could see the future. In reality, he was likely a traumatized mystic, whose poetic prophecies and connection to the old ways were later transformed by storytellers into the archetypal wizard we know today. His madness became magic. His isolation, a source of profound power. From the mists of Britain, we travel to the mountains of Wallachia, to a name that still inspires terror, Dracula. Bram Stoker's vampire is a creature of the night, a suave aristocrat with a thirst for blood, but the historical Dracula was a man. A 5th-10th century prince named Vlad III. His title was Draculi, meaning son of the dragon, but he earned another name, Gepek, the Impaler. Vlad was a ruthless defender of his homeland against the Ottoman Empire. His methods were brutal, designed to strike fear into the hearts of his enemies. He was known for impaling thousands of prisoners on stakes, creating a gruesome forest of the dead. It wasn't vampirism that made him a monster. It was the savagery of war. His reputation for cruelty and his homeland's superstitions about the undead eventually merged, creating the most famous vampire in history. The story of Robin Hood is a simple one. An expert archer who steals from the rich to give to the poor. A single noble outlaw hiding in Sherwood Forest. But history tells a different story. In the 13th and 14th centuries, England was a land of unrest. Many men were outlawed for rebelling against unjust laws and corrupt sheriffs. So many, in fact, that Robhod or Robin Hood became a common alias, a generic nickname for a fugitive. It wasn't one man, it was a movement. The legend we love is the amalgamation of countless real acts of defiance against tyranny. Robin Hood is the spirit of rebellion, given a single name and a green hood. Woot! So begins the epic poem of Beowulf, a heroic warrior who travels to Denmark to slay a monster named Grendel. For a long time, it was considered pure fantasy. But look closer. The poem describes the burial of a great Geatish chieftain, his body laid in a ship, surrounded by treasures, and covered by a monumental earthen mound. In Sweden, at a place called Gamla Uppsala, archaeologists have found exactly that. Massive burial mounds from the 6th century, the very era of the poem. Inside, they found evidence of powerful warrior chieftains buried with magnificent helmets, swords, and shields. Beowulf may not have fought a literal monster, but he represents a very real class of Scandinavian warrior princes whose power and magnificent funerals echoed through the ages. Hercules, the strongest man who ever lived. Son of Zeus, his 12 labors are the stuff of pure myth, battling hydras and capturing hellhounds. Yet the root of this demigod is planted in mortal soil. The ancient Greeks revered physical prowess. Their Olympic Games celebrated incredible feats of strength. The figure of Hercules is a synthesis. He combines the exaggerated deeds of real-world strongmen, champion athletes, and celebrated war heroes. Each generation added a new impossible feat, a new monster to slay, until the memory of real men was forged into the body of a demigod. Hercules wasn't born a legend. He was built, story by story, from the achievements of mortals. The Ballad of Merlin tells of a young woman who disguises herself as a man to take her elderly father's place in the army. A beautiful story of filial piety and courage. And it's truer than you think. During the Northern Wei dynasty in China, from the 4th to the 6th centuries, the empire faced constant threats from nomadic tribes. Historical records and archaeological findings confirm the existence of female warriors. Tombs have been discovered containing the remains of women buried with armor and weapons. They were likely cavalry archers, skilled riders from the northern frontier. Hua Mulan wasn't just a Disney princess. She was the embodiment of real women who fought and died for their land. The god of thunder, mighty Thor, with his hammer Mjolnir, was one of the most revered deities of the Norse world. A protector of mankind, but where did the idea of such a god come from? His origins may lie with the Proto-Germanic tribes of Northern Europe. Chieftains and elite warriors were often associated with the terrifying power of a thunderstorm. The sound of their armies charging was like thunder. Berserkers, warriors who fought in a trance-like fury, seemed to possess a divine madness. The name Thor itself is linked to the word for thunder. He is the deification of the perfect warrior, immensely strong, loud, and utterly fearsome in battle. Achilles, the greatest warrior of the Trojan War, invulnerable, save for his heel. He was the leader of the Myrmidons, an elite fighting force. While Troy was a real city, was Achilles a real man? Probably not. But he was inspired by real warriors. During the Greek Bronze Age, elite Achilles-like figures did exist. We know this from their graves. Lavish tombs like the one known as the Griffin Warrior Tomb have been unearthed. Inside, a powerful man was buried in his full bronze armor with an arsenal of weapons, including a magnificent sword. These were the real Myrmidons, the Bronze Age commandos whose battlefield prowess became the stuff of legend, personified in the peerless warrior, Achilles. A nation of fierce warrior women who cut off one breast to better fire a bow. The Amazons of Greek myth. For millennia, they were thought to be a fantasy, a way for Greek men to explore ideas of a world turned upside down. Then we dug in the earth. Across the steppes of Eurasia, archaeologists began finding Scythian burial mounds, and inside something astonishing. Graves of women. Buried not with mirrors and combs, but with bows, arrows, spears, and daggers. Their bones showed injuries consistent with combat, healed sword cuts, arrowheads lodged in bone. These were the Amazons, real Scythian horsewomen who fought and hunted alongside their men. The myth was real. The Greeks had just gotten the geography wrong. Sinbad the Sailor. His 7 voyages are a whirlwind of fantasy. Giant birds, angry genies, and valleys of diamonds. Surely this is pure fiction, but the inspiration is very real. During the golden age of the Abbasid Caliphate from the 8th to the 13th centuries, Arab sailors were the masters of the Indian Ocean. Their dhows sailed from Basra and Baghdad to the coasts of Africa, India, and even China. They returned with exotic goods and even more exotic stories. Tales of monstrous whales, strange peoples, and perilous waters. The adventures of Sinbad are the collected, exaggerated sea stories of these real sailors, a compendium of 1,000 true voyages, each one embellished into a fantastic epic. Aladdin and His Wonderful Lamp. A classic tale of a street urchin, a princess, and a genie. It feels quintessentially Arabian, but the story has a surprising origin. It wasn't in the original Arabic manuscripts of 1001 Nights. It was added in the 18th century by a French translator, Antoine Galland. He claimed he heard the story from a Syrian storyteller from Aleppo. This man, Hana Diab, recounted a folk tale from his homeland. A story about a poor boy who finds magical fortune. Aladdin wasn't an ancient Persian hero. He was a character from a Syrian folk tradition, introduced to the West, and forever bound to a book he was never originally a part of. The Pied Piper of Hamelin, a haunting tale. A mysterious man in multicolored clothes pipes the rats out of a town. When the townspeople refuse to pay him, he returns and pipes their children away, never to be seen again. A fairy tale? Not to the people of Hamelin. Their town records from the 13th century contain a chilling entry. An inscription in a church window, now lost, reportedly read, "In the year 1284, on the day of Saints John and Paul, 130 children born in Hamelin were led away by a piper into a mountain. Historians speculate this could refer to a catastrophic child migration, perhaps a crusade or a colonization effort that went horribly wrong. The piper wasn't magical. He was likely a recruitment agent. And the children didn't vanish into a mountain. They simply never came home. The myth of Atlantis speaks of a magnificent island civilization ruled by wise priests that vanished beneath the waves in a single day and night. Plato's story has captivated imaginations for centuries, but was he inventing it or remembering something? Around 1600 BCE, the volcanic island of Thera in the Aegean Sea exploded. It was one of the largest eruptions in human history. The blast and resulting tsunamis would have devastated the advanced Minoan civilization on nearby Crete and other Bronze Age settlements. Egyptian records from that period speak of invasions by sea peoples and the collapse of great empires. Plato, writing 1,000 years later, may have been weaving together fragmented folk memories of this very real, very sudden Bronze Age collapse. Atlantis wasn't one island. It was a lost world. The Kraken, a sea monster of immense size with tentacles that could pull entire ships to the bottom of the ocean. A sailor's nightmare. This legend comes directly from the cold, deep waters of the North Atlantic. For centuries, Norse sailors would occasionally encounter a truly terrifying sight, the carcass of a giant squid washed ashore. These creatures can grow up to 40 feet long, their eyes the size of dinner plates. A glimpse of one alive, its tentacles writhing in the waves, would be enough to fuel nightmares for a lifetime. The Kraken wasn't a myth. It was a real animal, seen through the eyes of terrified sailors. The sirens of Greek mythology were beautiful women whose enchanting songs lured sailors to their doom upon the rocky coasts, a supernatural threat. But the sea holds many dangers that can fool the senses. Sailors on long voyages, lonely and exhausted, might have mistaken the barking of seals or the mournful calls of manatees for human voices. The song could have been the strange whistling of wind through rock formations. And the deadly result wasn't magic, but the reality of navigating treacherous, uncharted waters with hidden reefs that could tear a ship apart. The sirens were a personification of the sea's beautiful, deceptive, and deadly nature. Deep in the Slavic forests lives a fearsome witch, Baba Yaga. She flies in a mortar and pestle, and her house stands on chicken legs. She is a cannibal, a monster. But this terrifying figure has roots in real history. In ancient Slavic cultures, there were solitary women who lived on the fringes of society. Healers, herbalists, and midwives. They possessed knowledge of nature, of medicine, and of ancient rituals. They were respected but also feared. As Christianity spread, these figures were demonized. Their healing became witchcraft. Their wisdom, a dark secret. Baba Yaga is the folk memory of these powerful women, twisted by fear into the image of a crone who devours children. The Cyclops, a one-eyed giant famously encountered by Odysseus, a race of primitive shepherds living in caves. How could anyone imagine such a creature? The answer may lie not in fantasy, but in paleontology. The islands of the Mediterranean are rich with the fossilized remains of extinct dwarf mammoths. To an ancient Greek who had never seen an elephant, their massive skulls would have been baffling. Most notably, the large central nasal cavity where the trunk attached would look exactly like a single giant eye socket. They weren't imagining a monster. They were misinterpreting the bones of a long-dead animal. The Minotaur. A creature with the body of a man and the head of a bull, imprisoned in a labyrinth on the island of Crete. This strange myth has a very direct connection to a real place, the Palace of Knossos. This was the center of the Minoan civilization, a vast, sprawling complex with hundreds of rooms and corridors. To outsiders, it would have seemed like an inescapable labyrinth. Furthermore, Minoan art is filled with images of bulls and a ritual sport known as bull leaping, where athletes acrobatically vaulted over charging bulls. The myth of the Minotaur combines the labyrinthine reality of the palace with the culture. And finally, the Grendel, the monstrous villain from the epic Beowulf, may not have been a supernatural creature at all, but a distorted memory of real threats faced by early medieval communities. Many historians believe the legend was inspired by cannibalistic warrior bands, outcast groups who lived beyond the edges of society and raided settlements under cover of night. Others argue Grendel reflects encounters with dangerous predators, large wolves. bears, or even rare animals whose attacks were exaggerated through generations of storytelling. To frighten villagers, these threats could easily take on monstrous qualities, and over time, myth and reality blurred together. The result was Grendel, a symbolic embodiment of everything that lurked in the dark, shaped in equal parts by actual dangers and the human need to explain the unexplainable. History remembers heroes, myth creates legends. But only when we uncover the truth behind the stories do we truly understand the people who lived them. If you want more deep dives into the real world behind myth and folklore, leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves legends as much as you do.